This video has been requested so many times over at least the past couple months, if not longer. So let's talk about laziness and procrastination when it comes to your spiritual practice, your occult practice, your magical practice, your witchcraft practice, whatever that looks like for you. Our modern society looks very different than even just 100 years ago. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about laziness and procrastination. Disclaimers. We're starting with disclaimers with this video. The first disclaimer I want to say is that it's okay to take a break. You do not have to have a daily practice every single day unless you really want to. Just because you're taking a break from something doesn't mean that you're lazy or that you are procrastinating. Second disclaimer. Some people do struggle with executive function disorder. This is apparent in disorders such as ADHD. And if you are someone that struggles with executive function disorder, it might be best to talk to a professional about something like this. Going down more professionally recommended avenues such as getting on the correct medication, going to therapy. I personally really love cognitive behavioral therapy. That is my personal favorite. It is short-term therapy, it is goal-based, and in my opinion, it's really effective. So if you are one of those people, you might want to combine some professional advice, and then also hopefully the advice in this video will be helpful. Third and final disclaimer, there is a huge difference between simply being tired and being lazy, and we're gonna talk about both of those. I actually have different advice for whether someone's tired versus someone who maybe is just a little lazy and struggling with procrastination. So I first want to talk to the occultists out there that are tired. We're going to focus on advice for that. For all my tired occultists out there, all my tired witches and heathens and whatever else you do in your spiritual practice, there is a wheel of life exercise that I would like to recommend, and I've kind of slightly modified this exercise. It's something I learned from a life coach so long ago, and I honestly don't even know where it originates. There's so many people that have taken this idea and kind of run with it and have made it their own. So I will show you a graphic that I've made of a wheel of life, and you can see it kind of looks like a pie, and each piece of the pie is a different aspect of life that pertains to your overall well-being. So I like to break my wheel of life up into 8 different categories, and again, this does not originate with me, but those 8 different categories are your career, your health, love, friendships, spirituality, family, money, and fun. And these are all pretty self-explanatory. And for each of these categories, this is a journaling exercise. You are going to journal about your deposits in each category and your withdrawals in each category. So deposits are anything that improve your well-being overall in the context of that particular category. So under family, for example, let's say you have family nights where every Friday night you order pizza and you all play board games together. That would be a deposit. That is something enriching that you and your family are doing together, and you're gaining a lot from it. It's adding to the well-being of your life. Versus a withdrawal. A withdrawal is something that takes energy away from you and depletes your well-being. It does not add anything positive or beneficial to your life. So an example would be, let's say in that same family category, you have a really toxic relationship with your mother or your mother-in-law or your father or some other close family member. And that is something that is really taxing for you to deal with on a regular basis. So you would write down your deposits into that category, and then you would also write down your withdrawals. If you don't have enough room, I actually like breaking this up into 2 different wheels of life. So I have one wheel of life that just shows my deposits, and then one wheel of life that just shows my withdrawals. And it gives me such a better visual overall because I can see which categories I'm constantly putting a lot of energy into, a lot of good energy, and then I can see which categories of my life are taking way too much withdrawals away from me. And then you're going to go through each category and you're going to rate them. So looking at career, after you've assessed all of your deposits and your withdrawals, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate this category? Is it a 9 out of 10? Is it a 5 out of 10? A 2 out of 10? How does that rank with the goal of your well-being in mind? And the reason why I recommend this for tired people, even though this seems like a long journaling exercise, it is very much worth it because I personally believe that we make time for the things that are important to us. If you're looking at all of your deposits and you're saying, wow, I do a really good job putting a lot of deposits into my family, into my love life, into my career, etc., but then you see no deposits in your spiritual category, you're able to better prioritize your time and maybe revisiting all of the deposits that you're putting in one category, revisiting that and saying, maybe I don't need to do this much for this particular category and I can space it out over a month span. That way I have more time and more energy to devote it to the spiritual category because we only have so much energy and we only have so much time in a day. And then looking at the wheel of life where you have all of your withdrawals, you can see where ties need to be cut and things that you need to get rid of in your life. Now, granted, there are some situations where it just is what it is. Maybe you're in a situation with your mother again, or your mother-in-law, or your father, or some other family member where you can't really cut them out of your life and it's just going to be a chronic withdrawal. That's okay, but at least you can acknowledge that this is a category I need to pay attention to because there is a constant pull of energy away from my well-being. And maybe setting up more firm boundaries with that family member would be really helpful as well and lessen the amount of energy being drained away from you. I personally believe it is so important, not necessarily to get 10 out of 10 on all of these categories, because is that even possible? I haven't personally gotten there, but at least to improve it so that you're not so excessive in one category and so deficient in the other, trying to have a really good balance between all of the categories. Again, I really think that people will make the time for the things that are important to them. So if you're tired, assess your withdrawals and see where your energy is going and see which one of those withdrawals you can potentially cut off. In addition to the Wheel of Life exercise, if you're at a point where there's just nothing that you can get rid of, there's nothing about your life that you can change, your schedule cannot be reworked, your deposits and withdrawals, they're stationary and they're unmovable. I do have a video that I put up, I think 2.5 years ago now, and it was a video about low effort or low energy witchy practices. And I say witchy because they're kind of witchcraft adjacent. I wouldn't necessarily say they're straight up witchcraft practices, but you know, they're witchcraft adjacent, witchy practices that can help you stay connected to your spiritual practice or your craft, your magic, etc. And I had well over 30 different low energy or low effort activities in that video. So I will link that video down below in the description box. I just want to put out there that I made that video 2.5 years ago when I was just starting my YouTube channel, and I was a completely different person 2.5 years ago. I was very mild, very meek. I have done a lot of self-development over the years, and I find that I just change as a person a lot anyways. And I'm saying that because I personally cannot watch that video without cringing. Because I made it so long ago, and also I didn't know how to film yet. I wasn't really sure who I was talking to on YouTube because I had just started this YouTube channel. So anyways, if you watch that video, watch it with a grain of salt, okay? Because that was so long ago and it's the cringiest video ever for me, but I also don't want to private it. Like, I don't want to get rid of that video because I know that some of the advice in that video has been really valuable for so many people. So it's one of those things where I personally can't watch it because it makes me, I don't know, want to crawl in a hole or something. But if that's something that interests you, there are tons of low effort exercises in that video. Now let's move on to talking about laziness and procrastination. So we've kind of already talked about what to do when you're tired, because there's a big difference again between tired and lazy. Sometimes we do just need to take a rest, or we need to reprioritize life. So this next section is just going to be one long rant, one long ramble. One of the first things that I want to recommend is to turn your technology off. Turn your TV off, turn your phone off, turn your iPad off, etc., etc. Turn all technology off, because there are so many times where I hear people of just mindlessly scrolling on Instagram, mindlessly scrolling on TikTok, and it doesn't ever allow your brain to get bored or to take a break. And this is something I've actually talked to a couple people about, is that it is so important to allow yourself to get bored and to sit in that boredom, because oftentimes when we're super bored, that's where a lot of creativity sparks, and where we get up and say, you know what, I think I am gonna light some incense at my altar, or you know what, I kind of just, I don't know, I want to grind some herbs together and make an incense or make a powder or whatever. Or you know what, I think I'm gonna pick up that book that's been sitting on my shelf for literally an eternity and I keep meaning to read it, but I'm not reading it. So turn off your technology and allow yourself to get bored. Don't limit yourself, don't give yourself rules, just turn it off and then see what happens. Maybe you decide you want to sit down and play with your crystals. Maybe you want to start wood burning a wand, whatever that looks like for you. Boredom can be such a powerful instigator for creativity. And I also want to say, do things that you actually enjoy doing. Why are you forcing yourself to do things that sound really unappealing? If you don't enjoy the thought of discipline in your spiritual practice, and that's what's making you lazy and making you procrastinate, you don't have to have a spiritual practice that's super disciplined. Some people enjoy having a more rigorous spiritual practice and being a little bit more ceremonial and dedicated to certain things. That's very valid for a lot of people, but it's also not the style that calls out to everybody. For example, when it comes to meditation, I hear all the time people saying, I know I should meditate, but I just don't want to, or I can't bring myself to do it. And then when I talk to those people further, I find out that their perspective of meditation is sitting down on a meditation cushion with your legs crossed, spine straight, and just trying to think of nothing at all. And for those that watch my meditation video, there are so many other types of meditation out there. You don't have to do a more traditional style of meditation. You can do walking meditations experience where you're going on a nature walk and literally walking through a beautiful mossy forest, just being incredibly mindful and present with your thoughts in that moment. Or maybe you paint with watercolors. Maybe you sit down to do free-flowing watercolor paint exercises where you just kind of allow yourself to slip into an altered state of consciousness. You mix the paint with water, you drop it onto your paper, and you watch the color bleed into whatever it turns out to be. So if you're feeling lazy and you're procrastinating because you feel like there's all these things that you should do when it comes to your spiritual practice, you should wake up every single morning and sit down cross-legged and meditate for 5 to 20 minutes. Get rid of all of those expectations and just do things that are genuinely enjoyable for you to do. There is another video that I want to recommend that I filmed, I think about a year ago, so it's a little bit newer than the one I recommended previously. And the title of it is What to Do When You Are Totally Bored with Your Magical Practice, or something along those lines. I'll link it in the description box. But in this video, I gave 11 different ideas to really get the wheels turning and be excited about your magical practice again. And if you're feeling like things are stagnant, stale, and boring, watch that video, because that video has tons of tips that I'm not going to repeat in this video. I don't want to be redundant. I want to give you so many resources and so many ideas. So definitely check out that video specifically if you're really struggling with boredom, and then that's what's fueling the laziness and the procrastination. Another piece of advice that I have for just laziness and procrastination in general is to set very, very clear goals for yourself. So whereas one person might thrive by removing all structure from their magical practice and just letting themselves be creative and free, other people might thrive more on structure and actually setting goals for them to achieve. So maybe that goal is just sitting down to pull one tarot card a day, or maybe sitting down at your altar to light some incense and do a 3 to 5 minute meditation. Something very, very simple and very attainable that you can do on a regular basis. Maybe it's not every day, maybe it's 3 times a week you've dedicated Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to your spiritual practice. Or maybe there's one day a week in particular that relates to a deity that you're working with, or a planet that you want to work with a little bit more. Maybe you say, okay, Sundays are ruled by the sun, and I want to work with sun energy a little bit more to boost my vitality, to boost my energy up a little bit, to get me out of this laziness funk. Maybe you do your spiritual practices on Sundays. But creating a routine really helps you just get into this flow where it becomes automatic. It becomes second nature to sit down at your altar every evening before you go to bed and to do your spiritual routine. I also think habit stacking in general is just kind of like a brain hack for most people. So habit stacking is basically where you stack brand new habits that you want to adopt onto existing habits. So let's say for your nighttime routine, you normally get a glass of water, you brush your teeth, and then you go lay down in bed. Habit stacking would be, okay, now I'm going to incorporate a little bit of glamour magic into my nightly routine right before I brush my teeth. So let's say you get your glass of water and then you add in this nighttime lotion that you want to like put on your face before you go to bed. And that is where you do your glamour magic, where you can draw sigils or glyphs or whatever using the lotion onto your face. Maybe do a little invocation for Venus if you want to, because you're doing some glamour magic in that moment. And then you go brush your teeth and then you crawl in bed. So you're habit stacking, you're adding these new things that you want to adopt into a routine that you already have, so it's seamless and it just becomes routine. It's just automatic and it's so much easier to keep up with it. Another thing I want to talk about is the idea of community in general. It is so easy when you're a solitary practitioner and you don't know a lot of people that also practice the same things you do. It is so easy to become incredibly lazy and to procrastinate because you don't really have anyone else keeping you accountable. You don't have anyone else to really talk to. Pagan spiritualities really are kind of niche. Occultists, witches, pagans, we're all such a smaller part of the population in comparison to, let's say, Christians, where Christians have tons of churches that they can go to and worship with other people every Sunday. And that community, it builds a really strong spiritual practice because they've got people that they're talking to every Sunday and they're holding each other accountable. They're like, see you next Sunday at church, you know? That's such a wonderful thing. And I think that unfortunately for pagans, witches, occultists, etc., that's something we really lack in our community. Apart from online spaces, of course, we can connect on Instagram and Facebook and through YouTube and things like that. Because we're such a minority, especially in certain parts of the world, it's really easy to feel alone and isolated and not have those people holding you accountable and not really having those relationships. So I recommend joining some sort of community. Do some research in your area and see if there's a temple that you can join, just some sort of organization, maybe even getting on Meetup or going onto those Facebook groups to see if there's any events in your area where people are actually meeting in person for a drum circle, a Sabbath celebration, you know, just something to where you can actually meet people. I am part of a very non-traditional coven. Honestly, we don't even call it a coven. We have weekly meetings, we study together, but we do a lot of magic together, and we do hold each other accountable because we really push each other to learn and ask questions of what are you reading next. We share our rituals and we do spell work together and things like that. So maybe even creating your own coven. I actually did do a video, as a side note, I did do a video on covens because at this point I have 4 years experience of being in various covens and just kind of navigating that world in general. So I had made a video about covens, red flags, green flags, what to look out for, how to start your own coven, etc. I had to take down that video because unfortunately it hit all the Christians on YouTube, and there were just so many negative comments. I did not want that kind of attraction to my channel, so I just had to private the video, unfortunately, because there was a lot of negativity from other spiritualities that didn't quite understand what it is that we're doing here. And I'm saying that because I know I'm probably going to get a lot of comments about this because I'm talking about it in this video. I've had so many people ask me, where did your coven video go? Or you should do a video on covens. I did, and it went poorly, so I probably won't be doing that again. But create your own coven or circle or grove or whatever it is that you want to call it. Join a Discord server that you like that has some sort of community element to it. Just something where you are consistently engaging with others and there is some sort of support system there. Another suggestion that I have is to make some sort of sacred space for yourself. And I know this can look so different for so many people. Not everyone is blessed to have a witchy room like this. Not everyone is blessed to even live with people that understand your practice or your spirituality. So if you are kind of in the broom closet having to keep a lot of this hidden, you can even create an altar space in a suitcase that you store underneath your bed that nobody will ever find. And when you're ready to sit down and do some spiritual work, you can pull out that suitcase, open it up, and then your whole altar is there for you. So there's so many different ways that you can go about this, but creating some sort of altar or sacred space for yourself that's really inspiring can really just pull you into action and get you out of that laziness and procrastination. Because when I see this room, I love this room. I have designed it exactly how I want it to be, and it makes me want to practice. I want to be in here and I want to sit down grinding some herbs up, preparing a candle or a petition, or doing something magical. It makes me want to meditate with my mala beads. It makes me want to burn incense and do some divination. So definitely take the time to create something that's aesthetically pleasing for you, that really inspires you to take action. Another tip, use positive reinforcement. This is just a psychology trick in general. When you're doing something that maybe feels a little bit more like a chore to you, although I don't feel like someone's spiritual practice should feel like a chore. If it's feeling like a chore, then you got to switch things up, right? I mean, make it enjoyable to you, or don't. That's totally up to you and your style of practicing. But let's say, for example, you sit down to meditate. I used to do this in the beginning when I was trying to get myself to meditate on a regular basis. I have such a sweet tooth. I love just a little bit of candy, okay? Not a little bit, a lot. I could binge on sugar. Sugar is like, I'm so addicted to sugar. It has taken me a lot to really cut sugar out of my diet, but I do allow myself a little bit of sugar here and there, just a little bit. So what I would do is I would meditate, and then afterwards I would bring myself back into the physical realm by having a little sweet treat. And so I actually have a drawer just like right down over here on this desk, and it always has just a little bit of treats in it. And I don't really eat sugar in my diet anymore. That is the only time that I allow myself to have a little bit of sugar, is after I do a meditation. I have a little sweet treat in there, some sort of little fancy organic candy or whatever it is I've chosen for myself. And not only does it ground me back into the physical world and it kind of perks me up after a meditation, but it's that positive reinforcement of giving my brain a little bit of a reward after doing something, and it makes me want to continuously do something. It makes me want to come in here, meditate, have another little sweet treat. Or maybe that sweet treat for you looks like taking a bubble bath afterwards, or allowing yourself to play video games for an hour, something that you really enjoy doing. I also want to address the guilt that a lot of people feel, or it seems like a lot of people feel, because I do hear about it quite often. With laziness and procrastination, there is so much guilt of, I should be doing this and I'm not doing it. And you get into this analysis paralysis where you're just sitting there frustrated and angry with yourself. I think this is actually the perfect opportunity to practice mindfulness, because you can allow those thoughts to pass on by. Those thoughts don't need to stick here. They do not belong to you. Recycle them back into the earth, because there's nothing to feel guilty about. We live in a very fast-paced society, which is totally, utterly exhausting. It's overly stimulating. I personally don't think that our biology is meant to keep up with everything that we have going on. So be kind to yourself. Know that it is absolutely normal to struggle with laziness and procrastination. Just don't live there. You know, if you have moments where you're low and you're a little bit more on the lazy side, the tired side, that's totally okay. Just don't let yourself sit there and wallow there. Let those thoughts pass on by, and then find something that's really inspiring to you that sparks creativity. And lastly, why not use your magic to correct any sort of laziness, procrastination issue that you've been experiencing? If you enjoy working with sigils, make a sigil to combat that laziness and procrastination. Maybe make your first servitor and start working with magical entities to help boost your energy levels. I personally love planetary magic, so when I'm feeling really low energy, I usually work with the sun or Mars. Both are great for increasing energy levels, just in slightly different ways. I feel that the sun is a little bit more cozy and health boosting, whereas Mars is really aggressive and like a punch to the face. Get up off your ass and do something. So maybe getting into a little bit of planetary magic and working with the sun or Mars would be really wonderful. If you really enjoy working with crystals, maybe make a crystal grid for yourself that's really energizing and focuses on, you know, using crystals that are there to boost your motivation. And then putting that crystal grid on your study or in your living room or somewhere where you need that energy, that movement, and that motivation. Make your own incense that focuses on energy and motivation. I also really love the idea of intention bowls. So I like having intention bowls around my house, and it really just kind of helps me control the energies in each space. So it's basically just a bowl with a bunch of correspondences that have to do with whatever it is that I want for this space. So say for my study, for example, I'll have a bowl filled with correspondences that focus in on increasing intellectual capacity, you know, improving focus and things like that. You can write your intention in there. You can create a sigil and stuff it in there. You can make an intention bowl and literally put whatever you want in it, but you're really just creating this bowl of all these correspondences that correspond to your intention, and then you're placing it in the appropriate room to bring in that type of energy. So I have an intention bowl in my living room that focuses more on comfort and community. It's really just to kind of create cozy vibes in this space. So they're super versatile. You can do whatever you want with them. So I really hope all these tips have helped. Again, if you want more ideas, inspiration, all that stuff, check out the other two videos that I will link down below in the description box. I want to see everybody practicing, and I want to see everybody excited about what they're doing. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in another video soon. Bye everyone.